Hey there, absolutely gospel music fans and readers and viewers and everybody in between. We are so excited to be here today with a wonderful singer and songwriter and all around just a wealth of knowledge for music. We're here with Kelly Gardner. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing great, Chris. It's good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kelly's at home in her in home studio. I'm in my messy office, so I feel a little dressed down. So
No, no, no. It's fine.
so Kelly, uh, you know, I know that you've had just a real rich history in gospel music and just music in general. And so we're going to talk about your new record here in a little bit, but I really wanted to give folks kind of an introduction to who Kelly is. For the uninitiated, who is Kelly Gardner and what are you all about?
Oh goodness, that's a loaded question. I tell you, I am about serving the Lord. I wrote a song about 20 years ago that is on the record now. That the first version of it was on the Left Behind 2 compilation CD, and it was called "It's My Desire." It's a very simple song. It just had one verse and then a kind of a bridge. And I decided last, and funny that you asked me this. I decided last summer that the song somehow just wasn't complete. It was written on Micah 6:8, and it never had the scripture in the song. And I kept feeling like all the time that I would sing it, every single time I would sing it, I kept thinking, there's something missing. So I finally wrote a second bridge, and it just says, "It's my desire, O Lord, just to be what you require, to do justly, to love mercy,
Hmm.
to walk humbly, even through the fire." I've been through some fire. My my grandparents died in a fire in
Hmm.
1996, and it was my mother's, both her parents. So and I sang the funeral. To go through that was difficult. I moved home to Alabama after that for a couple years and was just a worship leader for a little while. And worked in the church, served in the church, loved it. Loved. I had the kids choir, loved the kids choir. I had been in Nashville since 1990. I moved up here to go to Belmont University and do a commercial music degree. Did that, started working as a background vocalist for a while. Did a couple TV shows with Marie Osmond, Ray Stevens, sang some. I was one of those fill-ins with the Bev Darnell singers whenever she needed a backup for somebody that couldn't do it. Did just a lot of those little things for a long time. You know how it goes. You end up just working in all sorts of different things. To 1990, well, 96, the house burned. 1998, I moved back to the Middle Tennessee area. And when I did, Niles Borup had written a song with me on my first record. Yeah, I failed to mention that. I'm sorry, but I signed with Niles Borup. Sorry, let me start that again. I signed with Diadem Music Group after singing one song in the People's Church one Sunday morning, and David T. Clydesdale and Bob McKenzie both came up to me at the same time and said, "Okay, we like the song and we like you. We're going to call somebody." So they called George King at Diadem Music Group, and I was sitting in his office 4 days later, and we were talking about a record deal. Ended up doing that record with Bob Tankard as he co-produced with me, and Bob Ben, I'm sorry, Ben Tankard. So
Yes.
ended up doing the record with Ben Tankard as co-producing with me, and he did Yolanda Adams. Well, I just was so mesmerized that he even wanted to work with me. But we did we put together a good record. But one of the songs that we did on there was a song that I wrote with Niles Borup. And when I got back to town from the fire and moved back into Nashville in 98, I called him up for some reason and I said, "Hey Niles, I want to bring you a couple CDs." And he said, "Yeah, I had a bone to pick with you because I really wanted to get a copy of that CD." Well, I go to his office. I sit down in his office. I give him two CDs, and he says to me, "What are you gonna do now?" And I said, "I don't know. I think I want to write." And he said, "You want to do that here?" So he dropped a publishing deal on me right there. I ended up writing, I wrote I Stand Redeemed for Legacy 5 actually rather early in the time that I spent with Niles. I was with him as a staff writer from 1998 until 2003 when
Mm.
he retired. He
Wow.
sold the company and
Yeah.
was there and retired, but he was a great, great mentor. So I was a staff writer for him for 5 years. And we wrote me and Belinda Smith and Christine DeGazio wrote I Stand Redeemed rather early, somewhere around 1998. Well, we wrote God Will Provide for Gold City. We wrote Stand and Testify for Vestal. We wrote My God Will Always Be Enough for Karen Peck and New River. So many different songs. I'm probably leaving a couple of out that I shouldn't be leaving out, um, but we did so many different songs for lots of different artists. Do you know that we wrote there for probably I say we, I know I did. My co-writers there came along about at the same time. We wrote for about another 2 years, or at least I did, didn't get a cut, not one cut. Kept writing, kept writing. I was writing somewhere around 100 songs a year. I was in there 3 days a week, sometimes wrote 2 songs in a day. And in about 2 years, um, finally, I was in church choir with Debbie Bennett.
Mhm.
And I saw her, and Roger played piano for Legacy, and they were just putting it together, doing the new group. And I saw her in Home Depot. And we had written that song, I Stand Redeemed, and I had always felt like somebody needed to do it. I kept thinking, okay, it's got to be somebody good. We've really got to get the right group for that song. And I had pitched it. And I saw Debbie in Home Depot. I come up behind her in the checkout line, and I said, "Debbie," I said, "how you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I'm fine." We had been in church choir together at People's Church. And she said, she said, "Well, Roger is forming the new group. He's doing the new group." And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right." I said, "What are they going to call it?" She said, "Legacy 5." And I said, "Well, Debbie, I have a song that I want to pitch to Roger. Would you let me pitch it through you?" And she said, Of course I would." So that song was I Stand Redeemed. And I pitched it to him, and it was their first single, and it went to #1 for 3 months.
Mhm.
And so, and I think they've put it on a greatest hits or something. I don't know what it is now. I did it on custom records somewhere around 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. And so that writing career kept going. I actually started working for Belmont University in 2001. They asked me if I would just come and start, if I would be interested in teaching. They asked me if I'd be interested in teaching. And I said, well, yeah, maybe. And so I went, and I loved the kids. I started teaching commercial voice. And I did that from 2001 to 2005. No, 2006. And about 2005, I started wanting to build a studio. So I did here a 5-room facility here for tracking. We tracked the record here for the new album, and then we did orchestra somewhere else that's a much bigger room. But my room is more of it's 5 rooms, so it's kind of more of a tracking facility. And I did all my lead vocals here by myself. I just felt like that I needed to take time to get exactly what we wanted for that. And so we I did the Belmont thing from 2001 to 2006, came out and did some production work and some more writing, formed my own publishing company since Niles had retired in 2003. About 2005 or 6, I started Yellow Tree Music Group. And so I did Yellow Tree Works was BMI, Yellow Tree Tunes was CSAC, Yellow Tree Songs was ASCAP. It had another Yellow Tree song. Anyways, it was a group of publishing, a publishing group. So that was something I did 2005, 6, kept going. Then I started missing the kids at Belmont. I miss the students. Went back to Belmont, my Belmont dean, and said, "How do I get back in to teach again?" She said, "You have to get your doctorate." And I said, "Where?" She said, "Miami." I said, "Oh." So I went to Miami in 2011, was there from 11 to 14, and got a doctorate in jazz performance.
Wow.
And it was very good for me musically. I learned a lot while I was there. And came back to Belmont and taught there. They got me back in there, taught there from 14 to 19.
Wow.
And then I went out to Union, helped them build a program from 19 to 22. And then I knew that we had done what I needed to do at Union. And one of the guys that was out there, he was actually teaching for me, Chris Crunk, who produced the
Oh,
record.
yeah.
He was out there working and doing some teaching for us and all that. And when I knew that things were kind of coming to a close and we'd done what we need to do out there, he looked at me one day and he said, "Kelly, why aren't you singing?"
Hmm.
Chris, I looked back at him. I don't know. I really thought about it. I thought, that's why I came to this town,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt God leading me into singing and writing. And not to take anything away from my work with the kids and the students, because I loved it. I felt like God was using me to encourage people, to set them on the right track, all those sorts of things. But when Chris asked me that question, I thought to myself, that's what God put in my heart and called me to do. And so it was an easy decision for me to start doing the record, because I felt like that God was bringing me back around to my first love.
Wow.
And I felt like I was in as good a voice, really, as I've been, and have tried to keep myself healthy all these years, vocally, and have worked with so many different artists, and tried to keep up with the industry, but with the publishing company, I had quite a few different songs that were sitting there in the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And I had thought for many years, goodness, somebody needs to do that song. And I went through the catalog and we picked out first probably 35 or 40 songs. Then we whittled it down to 25. Then we whittled it down, and Chris was working with me. Because I decided almost immediately that, he's worked with so many wonderful people, Karen Peck, Brian Free, Ernie Haas, all those folks. I thought, come on, if you want to go with me, let's do this. Finally, we whittled it down to 14. And for every song that is on the record now, there's a real reason for it to be on there. And it covers topics that I think we, the church, need to think about. What is our desire?
Mm-hmm.
The real theme of the whole record is it's the title. It's not over. What the girl that wrote it with me, Deborah Keener, had never written a song before,
Wow.
She is a good friend through another friend who passed away actually, and I actually saw Deborah at our friend's funeral, and I said, "Deborah, have you ever written a song?" She said, "No." But she's a great classical piano player. Birmingham Southern. She was playing for me that day, and I said, "Well, you need to write, Deborah. You need to try something." I said, come up to Middle Tennessee with me. We'll write one day." She came up to Middle Tennessee to hear at my place, and I said, "Okay, Deborah, what you want to write? What's on your heart?" And she said, "You know, I had a friend that tried to commit suicide not too long ago, and she said, I just want to be able to tell people that no matter where you are in life, it's not over."
Wow.
And it resonated with me. I thought for lots of different reasons. I thought, there are so many people in this life who think that they've been used up. They think that it's over for them. There's nothing else, no other purpose. They even, think, God, why am I still here? Well, guess what? It's not over. He's not done with you.
Yeah.
You're here. You're here because he still has a work for you to do. And so I immediately kind of heard the song in my head, and it's kind of in a black gospel, Hezekiah
Hmm.
Walker kind of vein is kind of how he did it, and I immediately heard it that way, and I just kind of started singing it. Another song on the record, "Good Old Gospel Sing," it's about my upbringing with going to those gospel
Hmm.
singing, how different people call them, at this little church, Mount Olive, on Sand Mountain in Alabama. It's close to the same place Vestal came from, Fife area, but it's Altoona is the name of the area. But Mount Olive was the church, and we went to so many sings there with the Stamps Baxter and the Tennessee Vine books and all that
Hmm.
Benson book. So that song I wrote with another friend who had gone to a lot of sings as well, and that song opens the record. Um, Waymaker is on there, and I sang Waymaker at my friend Travis Cottrell's church out in Inglewood and Jackson while I was out there at Union.
Hmm.
And that song is one that I just started singing because he wanted me to sing it. I didn't really know the song. And I'll tell you something. There were times when we would do the song and I would just be the one leading out front. There was nothing special about it, but I just happened to be the one out front. And what a blessing it was because I would just see the spirit fall on the people and they would realize what the real meaning of that was. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Oh my goodness, how we need a light in the darkness right now in our world. Um, so, my heart, going back to what I said in the very beginning, it's my desire to serve his kingdom, uh, to be an open door, to take the open door and live for him. Essentially, that's what the song, that little simple song says. Micah 6:8. I think we all have to live our lives according to that and according to what God has put in us. I love to write songs. Our first single on the record is "Forgive Myself," and I
Hmm.
didn't write it. I didn't write that song. One of my writers did, so I do own part of it. But um, I didn't go into this record. I mean, thinking that I have to write all these. I went
Hmm.
into this record thinking that um, I wanted to sing songs that conveyed a message that I thought was very, very important during this time in our lives in this world. And that the Forgive Myself song says, it's time to forgive and forget. Mercy has no memory, grace has no regret. God took those sins and carried them far as the east is from the west. So if Jesus can forgive me, then it's time to forgive myself. And so, the very first that song has been written for, I don't know, 8 or 10 years maybe at least, and I kept thinking the same thing about that song. Oh, this needs to, wow, what a message. The
Mm,
minute I heard it, I thought, "Ah, that's what we do so many times. We ask Jesus to forgive us, we go lay it at the cross, we turn around and go running back, and then all of a sudden we turn around and think we've got to go back and get it.
mm,
No, he forgave us. So it's time for us to forgive ourselves, and move forward. I think that's the really the crux of that song is so many times we give up and we just go, gosh, I've done so many things wrong, what, like the it's not over part. It's kind of over for me. I've done so many things wrong. And say, no, you know what? No, you have to know it's not over. You have to keep moving. You've not done too many bad things for God to forgive you. You go ask him to forgive you. You lay it at the foot of the cross and you leave it there. And then you say, you know what? Jesus forgave me. I have to forgive myself, and I have to keep walking into his purpose and his plan. I have to keep walking into his purpose and his plan for my life, because there are things that he wants us to stand up for in this world. We need people in this world to be bold, to
yeah.
be courageous. I one of my prayers is that I will become more courageous and be willing to stand up, um, for what I think God wants us, the light that he wants us to be in this world.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I noticed when I was listening to the record was just kind of how pertinent the lyrical topics are to kind of where we're at today, in the world and society. And it's a really nice breath of fresh air, I thought. And of course, musically, I mean, it's all over the place, which is wonderful. Like it's you got that Southern gospel opener, but man, you've got uh, Precious Lord, which is a wonderful hymn that starts off bluesy and jazzy, and then you just kick into this black gospel portion of it, which just took me by surprise, and I loved it. You got worship on there, and you've got traditional, and it's really great. I loved the lyrical content of I will not hope in something less. A beautiful song there, and you know, um, well,
Be
I just
fun to hear.
applaud you for for picking great songs, writing great songs, but just also not feeling like you had to limit yourself to just what things that you were saying, but other people who may not have an outlet to sing there for themselves their songs, but you put that out there for them, and it's really great.
Well, I have to tell you one thing that's very interesting. Some people probably don't know about me, because you will see some black gospel influence in my music, and some of it comes from the good old gospel singing things. But I'll tell you a little secret about some of the other part of it. I was raised. My mother and my daddy both worked, and were gone all day. So from the time I was about 3 weeks old, there was a lady that came to work for us. Her name was Amanda Griffey, and I called her Manny. And she came to work for us, and she would clean and clean the house, but take care of me. They really brought her in to take care of me because I was a mess, you can imagine. And from 3 weeks old, she took care of me all the way up till I started being able to do my own self. She was an African American woman. But I'll tell you something interesting that she would do is, she would, when she had done a little cleaning, and she also cooked because mom wouldn't get home in time, to cook at night from she was a college professor, and so she would get home very early. So she'd come in and Manny would have dinner ready. It was awesome. And she was an amazing cook. But during the day, when she kind of got her little stuff done, she would take me out to my little sandbox where I would play in my sandbox. And she would sit me down there in the sandbox and she would sit there and sing spirituals to me.
Wow.
And so you can imagine then the spirituals and the bluesy quality of all that. It's ingrained in me.
Sure.
I grew up hearing it. I would go to her church, Thankful Baptist Church. She was a soloist at Thankful Baptist Church, and I would go to her church and hear her sing solos with that choir and
Wow.
just knock it out of the park. And so you can imagine like the influence that she had on my life. I mean, it's like that the bluesy and that style kind of runs through my veins.
Sure.
And so even when I start to arrange, when I start to write with somebody, a lot of that just comes out of me. In fact, when they asked me to just play like 3 chords, through the whole song, I kind of like, what? Okay, I'm not sure if I can do that. Because it's just a part of who I am,
Sure.
and from a very, very early age. When I do some of that, like the Precious Lord, when I start to sing some things like that, I kind of look up in the sky. Her husband killed her when I was 21. So the family went through a murder there, and he was locked up, and he's now deceased. But when I think, I kind of look up and think when I go through some of the when I sing through some things, and I'm starting to sing like Precious Lord, I look up at the sky and I think, Manny, you taught me how to do this.
Yeah.
And so, I'll see her again one day. She was
Sure.
a devout believer, and I will give her a hug someday when I'm on those streets. My mama that died in October 28th, she's already seen her, and I'm sure they've had a great reunion because they were fantastic friends. They were wonderful, very close friends. I will tell you about the song about my mama. The Day I Get Home song started out, me and my friend Amy Keffer Shellum, sorry. Amy Keffer Shellum wrote that song together about 5 or 6 years ago. And we wrote it about her granddaddy, who was a preacher, said with his hand on his Bible, he stood throughout the years. Well, it was always about her granddaddy, her preacher granddaddy. And my mother had even heard it sung that way. Like I had sung that in church that way. And she was always like, oh, I love that song. Oh my gosh, I love that song so much. Because the day I get home, when I finally see Jesus, I'll lay down my trials and trade a cross for a crown. Freedom from suffering is something I've never known, but I'll know what it's like on the day I get home. Okay, so one other thing I want to share with you is about Mother and the song The Day I Get Home, because it's about her. We didn't intend it when we wrote it, but it really was. Once she passed, I knew that it was. Is that I did watch her stand with her hand on her Bible and teach the old time gospel for many, 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 many years. I saw her in her little Sunday school class. I was a part of it. Thank goodness I recorded a lot of those. I'm still learning from her as a mentor, Sunday school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting in the hospital with her the last 2 months of her life, I watched her with her hand still on her Bible.
Wow.
And I watched her get in her little recliner and pull that little hospital desk up to her and pull out her Bible and sit there and highlight her Bible and study her Bible with her hospital gown on and act like that she was still going to teach that Sunday school lesson that next week, even though I knew she wasn't strong enough. She would continue. She was still seeking the Lord up to the very end.
Wow.
And I will tell you, that taught me more about how we need to live our lives
Hmm.
than anything else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's easy to follow and study and all those things when everything's going well.
Hmm.
But when things are not going well, and you need to um, still press through. It's my desire, O Lord, just to be. You require to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly, even through the fire.
Right.
And my mother was walking through the fire from having kidney failure. She had AFib, started with AFib, went into congestive heart failure, went into kidney failure. She beat COVID. She beat a UTI, going through all that. She had finally got a port for kidney for dialysis. And finally, what killed her was getting septic.
Wow.
But I'll tell you, that woman was still fighting all the way to the end
Mm.
and still serving her Lord and still studying the word and praying for different people
Yeah.
all the way to
Wow.
the all the way till she hit that gate. And I will say that watching her die and how she died over the last 2 months of her life probably taught me as much about how I need to live
Hmm.
thing else.
Wow.
So that it's been a very interesting year, but the timing of how God timed all of this, had no idea that all this would happen while we're doing the record, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But don't why don't we understand and trust all the time that God's timing is perfect. His timing is perfect.
Hmm.
And I look back at it now and I think, oh Jesus, you knew, exactly what I would need. You knew what some of this testimony could help other people in what they're going through in life. And so my desire for this record is for it to help people know that it's not over. It's not over in their lives. They still have hope. If they don't know Jesus, they need him.
Yeah.
He is their only hope. And it also, for those who think, oh, my life is over, I don't have purpose. No, no, you still have hope. You still have purpose in life.
That's great. Well, we're about out of time, Kelly, and it's your story is wonderful. Of course, the new record is wonderful. And so, where can people reach you and find you online?
They can find my website is they can find my website www.kellygarner.com. They can also find us on all the socials. I would love for people to come follow me and like the socials, because as you know, that just helps people stay in touch. And I do a Facebook Live event every single Thursday night
Oh,
at
wow.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Thursday Night Live with me, and what I try to do is several different things. I share some songs from the record, and I do them sometimes acoustically. Sometimes I'll do them with the track, but a lot of times I'll do them acoustically, just me and the piano, the way we wrote them, just
Hmm.
stripped down. And then I'll also sometimes just sit there and play a hymn, because hymns are kind of a foundational part to
Sure.
me of where I come from. And I sometimes play them with a little bit of a bluesy black gospel flavor. So try to find us anyway through our Facebooks, Instagrams, TikTok, any of those socials, and the website
Great.
kellygarner.com.
Great. And of course, if you're in concert, go support you, give in the offering, buy a
Yes,
T-shirt, anything that can
yes,
financially support you. We are all
please,
about. So,
please,
Kelly,
because
yes,
yes, because the t-shirts and the mugs and I have a book that tells about each song, that tells the story behind each song. All of those things are what support us to be able to keep
Sure.
going and to do
Right.
this. And so, and the tour schedule is on the website. So
Great.
feel free to come and see us live.
Great. Awesome. Well, Kelly, it has been wonderful getting to know you. I highly recommend It's Not Over. It's a fantastic CD. One of the best I've heard this year, hands down. So I highly recommend it. You can hear Forgive Yourself on Southern Gospel Radio. It's also streaming on Absolutely Gospel Radio right now, too. So we're very excited for you, and we can't wait to see where God takes this ministry for you.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Awesome.
It's
Thanks,
so
guys.
great. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I appreciate it so very much.
no problem. And until next time.